I'm Adam Amansky, head of the United World College Dilijan. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to today's Peace Talks. This is the first of the series of the UWC Dilijan Peace Talks that we are going to present to you. Originally, we wanted to start the series in September, on the 21st of September, which is UWC Day, as well as Peace Day. But the sentencing of our co-founder, Ruben Vardanyan, to 20 years in prison by Azerbaijani court has prompted us to start the series sooner, bring the initiative forward. So welcome to our inaugural session. Today's session is dedicated to understanding the life values and the current situation of Ruben Vardanyan, a humanitarian and someone who by many people is considered to be a peacemaker. This session is not about politics. It is about moral choice, responsibility, justice, and peace. Values that are at the heart of the UWC movement in general and our school in particular. Like all our students, I have never met Ruben in person, but if it hadn't been for him, none of us would be here today, and we feel his presence in everything that we do on a daily basis. So I would like to encourage everybody to listen and to reflect on what we hear today. We have asked our teachers to help us with this session. So Yaro Zabavsky will lead the discussion and Monica Agarwal will wrap it up. So I would like to invite Yaro, head of the art department at our school, to come on the stage. Yaro graduated from UWC Atlantic in 2009 and has been teaching art at our school for the past 10 years. So please welcome Yaro.
Thank you, Adam. I feel privileged to say that I've actually met Ruben on many of his visits to the school. He was very generous with his time. He would address the school community in this very atrium on important matters, such as the future and importance of education in Armenia and the world. And often he would pass by the art department on his way to the top of the library and would stop by and talk to the students and myself about their art projects. Ruben's presence was very warm, he was very approachable, and it was always stimulating. Like Adam said, this is my 10th year at the school, and I must say the Dilijan that I entered 10 years ago was a very different place. It was a place with hardly any decent cafes and shops and restaurants and hotels. And today, to the large part, thanks to Ruben's and Veronica's vision, it is a flourishing town. We have a lot of centers for education here, and it is growing and becoming one of the most developing centers of urban development in Armenia. Another example that I would like to share is very recent, when I went to Tatev and experienced firsthand Ruben's impact through the Tatev Revival Project and the Wings of Tatev ropeway that opened in 2010. The impact is still very visible today. Not only it is the longest ropeway in the world, but it provided a lot of people with jobs and opportunities, and really you can see the importance of this project for the region. So with this, I would like to say that it is my great privilege to lead this session, and the purpose of it is really to understand who Ruben Vardanyan is, why his actions matter, and why his legal case raises a lot of humanitarian concerns. We will reflect on Ruben both as a humanitarian, as a businessman. We will hear from his wife Veronica about his moral choice to go to Artsakh, to Nagorno-Karabakh, and stand with the people there. We will hear the perspective of his lawyer, Siranush Saakyan, who is with us here today, about why his case raises serious humanitarian concerns. And lastly, we will provide you with an opportunity to ask questions and come out with your own conclusions. To begin this session, I would like to say a few words about Ruben's background. Many of you know that he made a successful career as a businessman, entrepreneur, and by conventional standards, he has achieved a lot that one might strive for: financial success, security, stability, but he did not stop there. And that's what makes his case truly remarkable. Instead of stepping back to enjoy this personal success, Ruben has made a deliberate choice to invest and dedicate his resources, his time, his money, his efforts to education, to humanitarian action, and to opening Armenia to the world and the world to Armenia through education. And ultimately, this vision led to founding, together with his wife Veronica, of our unique school, a place that is built on dialogue, on commitment, responsibility, and intercultural understanding. So now I really would like to invite you to watch a short video that was made for UWC award that was given to Ruben and Veronica in 2023 at an UWC all event in New York. It is an award for peace and sustainability in education. Please, can we have the video? Thank you.
And their values and beliefs.
Together with Veronica, decided one of the key area of our interest will be education, because we believe education is a core element for future of the world. As soon as we learn about UWC concept, we found this is exactly what we are looking for us, and we started to work together.
And we like the concept of UWC as the one that doesn't have any domination of any culture over another.
Without building this type of school in this region, you cannot believe that the peace will come one day in this region.
Exactly for the reason that it is located in such a complicated geographical location. Aurora Humanitarian Initiative are unique people who save lives and help other people and think positively. Aurora scholarships were for the students, for young people from conflict zones. We wanted to bring Armenia into the world and to bring the world into Armenia.
I'm strongly convinced that Dilijan School already became the catalyzer of many transformation, social, economical, in Dilijan town.
UWC Dilijan is not the bubble. It's part of the ecosystem.
The impact is significant. It will be more every year.
Investment in education means investment in the future.
I believe it was really evident from this video the impact already happening with a little bit of an insight, Ruben and Veronica's motivation. I would really like to point out one thing, that for this video, Ruben was interviewed when he was already in Artsakh, and at that point, nobody knew what the fate had in store for him and 120,000 Armenians there. And to really understand his motivations and his moral choice, we will now hear from Ruben's wife, and the founder of the school as well, Veronica Zonabend, who was supposed to be here with us today, but due to the geopolitical situation in this region, she was unfortunately caught up in the Middle East and couldn't come. I'm glad to say that right now she's safe and home, but earlier today I had a chance to ask her a few questions about Ruben's choices and his motivation, and now we will play that for you.
Hello, Veronica. First of all, how are you?
I'm fine. So that is, but you said the world is so unpredictable. You can't make any plans. I plan to be next to you in Jerusalem and to greet everybody and tell the story, but unfortunately, as we see what's going on in the world, so it's something that we have to be prepared for.
Of course. Well, we are very, very grateful for your time, and it's sad that you can't be with us today for our event, but thank you for finding time to talk to us. And as we discuss Ruben's case today, the first question I have is about values. Many people speak today about values, but few actually act upon them at great personal cost, like he did. So, what values most strongly guided his actions?
Yeah, thank you for this question. That's true. A lot of people talk about values, but it's much more difficult to follow in your life the values you preach. And Ruben is the person who always did what he was talking about, and his values about their people, about the future of make good for the people around him and beyond. And there maybe his main how he identified their mission of his life is to make good for his people, for Armenian nation. And there I realized that the person like Ruben coming to this world maybe once in 100 years, and the Armenians are very lucky that he was born Armenian and with such a mission and such a goal in his life to make his nation happy, and they're being now at existential crisis, and there he decided to do everything he can to help his people. And there it's sometimes it's quite altruistic idea, and I know that many people question why he came there and look for some rationale. But please believe me, it is more than that. It's more about the values, and that he believes that the future depends on us and depends we people treat each other, and that we have to follow big goals that we have in life, and that it's much more than today's interests, and also much more than financial interest today or tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. It is becoming evident that going to Artsakh, to Nagorno-Karabakh, was one of the most significant choices he made. Why did he feel that it is so important for him to be there? And what did the notion of peace mean to him in that context?
Yes, it's a very good question, at the same time a difficult one. It was a difficult decision for him, but he believed that he can't stay in a distance from that, and he believed that the core of the nation is in Artsakh, and he did all he could try to preserve it and preserve people's not only lives, also to preserve and make people keep their pride, and also to make them proud about who they are, and also preserve history and preserve the tombs of their ancestors. Because there are some families whose cemetery and whose 7 generations of their families were buried in the same villages and the same places. And people left their land and left the land of their ancestors, and it's big tragedy happened. And he believes that any peace is possible when people respect each other and when the neighbors treat each other with dignity, and their dignity and respect to their own histories. And Armenians and Azeris had the history of living together. If you talk to the people who from Artsakh, from other areas of Armenia, where 2 villages were together, that people lived in peace, and there were some mixed marriages, and they respected religions of each other, they respected traditions of each other. It's possible, but it can't happen forcefully. It can happen only if both sides, again, respect and see face to face each other and humans in each other. And that is not easy, but especially when there is hot conflict, but it is the future. And that was one of the reasons why we founded UWC Dilija. Because the mission of UWC is exactly about mutual understanding and knowledge about each other. Many conflicts are happening because of ignorance. People don't know their roots, don't know history, don't know why things are such that they are now. Because it's sometimes it is the result over a lot of circumstances and some misunderstanding. And it's very important to have their will, mindset, and wisdom to rectify and to find the way to resolve their issues that sometimes happened many years ago.
Thank you, Veronica. And my final question is a personal one. We know that you haven't seen Ruben since 2023, but we know that you allowed weekly call. If I may ask, when was the last time you spoke with him? And if you could share, what did he have to say?
We spoke to him. It's interesting. He called today, and he shared the good news that he received a bunch of letters from Dilijan, a lot of letters from Dilijan, and he wanted to pass his gratitude to everybody who wrote, to the teachers, to the alumni, to students. It gives him a lot of strength and gives him energy and belief. Everything he did is still alive, and that people need it, and they move forward with this. And also very often during the phone calls, he shares his thoughts and what principles he could formulate better now because he has a lot of time for reflection, to read, to think, and there were 8 principles that he shared the last week with me about how it's better to live, and I want to also to share it with the audience, and then maybe we will share on the screen them a bit later.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Veronica. Thank you so much for connecting. And we understand that it's a very difficult time for you and your family. And I just wanted to say that personally and as a community, we stand together with you and Ruben, all of your family. Thank you very much for connecting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Veronica shared her reflections, and I think they really help us understand the motivation and the choice that Ruben had to make and why. And I think in today's world, particularly considering the events of the last few days, his vision and the message is very, very accurate and is needed more than ever. Veronica mentioned the principles that Ruben shared with her and with everyone over the phone call, and you can now see them up on the screen. I will take the liberty to read them out loud as well. Live simply and fully in the present moment. Love generously and care sincerely. Speak from the heart. Continue to learn by knowing yourself. Believe without a doubt. Forgive and do not judge. And walk your path without fear and leave the rest to God. It is now time to proceed to talk about the legal dimension of Ruben's case. It is extremely important to understand this aspect, not just to comprehend what happened to Ruben, but to think critically about things such as the due process, the protection of human rights, and justice. And to talk about it, it is my pleasure to introduce Siranush Saakyan to provide legal insights. Siranush represents Armenian prisoners and their families in international proceedings. She is an expert with over 15 years of experience in human rights advocacy, judicial reform, and anti-corruption. Throughout her career, Siranush has held pivotal roles, including serving as the chair of the Ethics Commission for high-ranking public officials and as an ad hoc judge at the European Court of Human Rights. She has become one of the leading voices for the rule of law and justice in Armenia. Ms. Saakyan is the president of the International and Comparative Law Center, executive director of the Armenian Legal Center for Justice and Human Rights, and as I said, she represents the families of Armenian prisoners and their families. So, with the help of Ms. Saakyan, today we will understand the legal process involved with Ruben, the concerns surrounding the verdict, and why this case has raised alarm among humanitarian experts around the world. So please welcome Siranush Saakyan. Hello?
Hello.
Dear Siranush, first of all, thank you very much for coming. It is a great pleasure to host you at our school. And I would like to begin by asking you about the legal process as a whole involved with Ruben's case and why it raises serious concerns.
Thank you very much. I would like to express my gratitude for creating this space for exchanging also the legal dimension of Ruben's case. It is also an honor for me to be physically present in this building. The theme is emotional, not an easy one, but very necessary, especially when it concerns to human rights and accountability. Ruben's case is not isolated criminal case, and we should understand the context. It sits at intersection between armed conflict, humanitarian law, and the right to self-determination. And when we are studying the beginning, the birth of so-called criminal case, then the links between politics, conflict, and criminal proceedings became more evident. As you know, Ruben took an important role after 44 days war in Artsakh. And in November 2022, he assumed the role of state minister in Artsakh. This was very important step because he became the hope for Artsakh population who was subjected to aggression. Some parts of Artsakh were occupied by Azerbaijani forces, and on a daily basis there were new threats to security, to human lives of Artsakh people. And with Ruben, they received the hope to stay sticked to their motherland, to their own lands, and struggle for their right to self-determination, which is recognized by the UN. The criminal case officially was opened in December 2022. So right after Ruben assumed the role of state minister in Artsakh. And as you know, his arrest was possible only due to 2023 aggression, which happened in September, and the whole population of Artsakh was subjected to forced displacement. So within 1 year, there was a blockade. Population was deprived of possibilities to conduct their daily lives. So no facilities, no medical equipment, no other infrastructure were operated because of this blockade. And this blockade was combined with aggression and under physical threat, the whole population was forcibly displaced. And Lachin corridor was under the full control of Azerbaijani troops. And they decided to arrest Ruben. So Ruben was a wanted person, and they conducted this military operation to take physical control over Ruben. Then he was detained by a military tribunal. Initial charges were very absurd, like illegal border crossing, financing terrorism, and by the way, all humanitarian initiatives which were conducted were classified as criminal activities. For example, Aurora Humanitarian Initiative was characterized as a crime by Azerbaijani law enforcement officers. After 1 year investigation, they brought new charges and very cynical charges. For example, forced deportation. So Azerbaijan conducted forced deportation of whole Artsakh population, but attributed this crime to Ruben Vardanyan. Also, they attributed war crime, notwithstanding that Ruben was and remained only civilian, and he has never participated in armed conflict, in military operation, and was not a subject to commit a war crime. So very serious new crimes were attributed to him, including genocide, instigating aggressive war crimes, and more. Overall, the number of charges is close to 40. And following these charges, in December 2025, prosecutor officially affirmed the indictment, and the case was sent to court. And we all witnessed sham trials, which began at the beginning of 2025. And the trials lasted 1 year. More than 50 hearings were held. Official version was that the trials were open, with possibility to have international monitoring, international oversight. But in reality, all these hearings were held behind closed doors. In military court, where each access required authorization by state officials. Many researchers, independent monitors, they made efforts to physically be present at trials, monitor the situation, but their access was denied. So in fact, they conducted non-transparent closed hearing, and moreover, no real possibilities were given to exercise effectively the right to defense. During the trial, Ruben challenged the composition of the court. So an objection raised concerning the competence of military tribunal to judge a civilian, which was dismissed by the court. And also he raised the issue about impartiality, considering discrimination, state-led discrimination against Armenians based on ethnicity, and very politically sensitive nature of charges, which is linked to right to self-determination. But all these motions were dismissed. Even Russian or Armenian or English translation of procedural documents were not provided to the defense. At the initial phase of trials, Ruben was represented by private Azerbaijani lawyer. Azerbaijan did not allow foreign independent lawyers to be present during trials. But in the process, they failed to secure proper facilities and timing to have this effective defense, and this led to a new decision. Ruben decided to refuse from private lawyer because participation of the lawyer was not meaningful. And right now he's being represented by public defender's office. This office is highly dependent to law enforcement and executive bodies, and generally Azerbaijan does not have independent judiciary or independent legal community to effectively charge its professional duties. And already at the beginning of 2026, we had the verdict judgment announced. They recognized Ruben guilty and sentenced him to long-term imprisonment, namely 20 years of imprisonment. Right now, we don't have the full judgment, so access to the judgment is not provided yet. And from a family, we also became aware that Ruben will not appeal this judgment to Azerbaijani appeal courts because he does not consider these remedies effective. They are theoretically available, but those remedies are not effective towards Armenians, especially those who face politically sensitive charges.
Thank you. And my second question is precisely about the verdict that was given. What aspects of the verdict are particularly inconsistent with the international law standards?
So international law has very specific requirements of due process. So the difference between retaliation and justice are due process guarantees. And due process implies independence of court, impartiality of judges, possibility to conduct the defense through independent lawyers, free will to provide testimonies by accused, the victim, witnesses, reasoned judgment, and publicity, oversight of the hearings, and so on. None of these components of fair trial were respected in Ruben's case. The court was military, heavily dependent on executive, and there are many international reports which raise lack of independence of judiciary in Azerbaijan, and the overall profile of Azerbaijani judiciary is that it is weaponized in the hands of executive to punish political opponents, also the local ones, be political opponents, journalists, human rights defenders, lawyers who perform independent activities in Azerbaijan not favorable to the president or allies to the president. And those judges are more dependent when it relates to a case linked to self-determination of Artsakh, and when it is combined with hatred, discrimination, and overall poor human rights record, it becomes evident that Azerbaijan domestically cannot offer independent and impartial adjudication of this case. Sometimes we make parallels between Artsakh case and Catalan case. Factual circumstances are totally different, but we use this example to show how important is to have independent judiciary. As you know, the old governors of Catalan are now in exile, and Spanish authorities, they make extradition requests to European countries to have the accused in their own country and bring before the courts. However, all these requests are being consistently denied because the charges are politically sensitive and Spanish courts are not capable to offer independent and impartial adjudication of politically sensitive case. But we know, obviously, that Spanish has well-developed independent judicial system compared to Azerbaijan. And now Azerbaijan tries to imitate independent court consideration in its own land, when for the world it's obvious that they don't have independent judiciary and the charges are very sensitive in political terms. So the only competent adjudication should be international format, not a domestic. But the charges itself are very problematic. So all lawful activities which were performed by unrecognized political unit of Artsakh are qualified as crime. And the question would be can the states criminalize the actions of officials of unrecognized states? International law makes a difference between recognition and illegality of regime. Yes, Artsakh Republic was unrecognized republic. So it declared its independence. So we had self-declaration of independence, but internationally we didn't have illegal regime. And UN Security Council was responsible of dealing the situation of a Nagorno-Karabakh conflict back in 1990s. There are 4 resolutions about the conflict, and UN Security Council never considered the regime of unrecognized Artsakh Republic as illegal, and never mandated non-recognition as a response to illegality of self-declaration. And we used to compare this situation with other unrecognized states. For example, right now we have unrecognized state of Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. So unrecognized republic where Security Council declared that declaration violated international law. The regime is unlawful and no member state of United Nations has a right to recognize the independence of this illegal regime. So UN possesses tools to struggle against illegal regimes and unlawful recognition of self-independence. But this never occurred for Artsakh. UN considered self-declaration in line with international law and never called to member states of UN for collective non-recognition. But for illegal regimes, also we don't have a precedent in a world when their leaders were subject to a criminal liability. And the charges prove that Azerbaijan just retaliates the leaders of Artsakh Republic for exercising their right to self-determination.
Thank you, Sernush, for helping us navigate these complex issues so clearly. You have touched upon this, but if we try to specifically apply the human rights lens to the case, what makes it particularly troubling for the human rights aspect?
When we're discussing these human rights issues, the first important part would be that the treatment of detainees and accused during their detention in closed institutions and also during the trial. And first thing we should record is the absence of international presence. There is no international neutral organization that can provide humanitarian support. As you might know, ICRC, International Committee of Red Cross, was the only organization who had access to Armenian prisoners, and they provided some humanitarian assistance. They monitored directly the conditions and confidentially provided report to Azerbaijani authorities to improve humanitarian situation of Armenian detainees. But since June 2025, Azerbaijan restricted visitations of ICRC, and in September, they closed the operation of ICRC in Azerbaijan. So the last international humanitarian mission ended its activities, leaving Armenians without any independent oversight or any humanitarian support. The positive thing was that they allowed one ad hoc visitation in December 2025. So during these Christmas days, the representatives of Central Geneva office visited Armenian prisoners, but this was an ad hoc, one-time visit. And right now, there is no regular monitoring mission which can objectively assess situation, medical conditions, mental health, other circumstances of detainees. And this leaves them in a vulnerable situation, and their free will is highly limited. And this international presence was also very important during the trials to monitor the trial, the conduct of judges. Many international organizations, states, embassies, they officially appealed to Azerbaijani authorities and requested an access to courtrooms, but this access was not provided. So we don't have an independent mission to understand what really happened in courtrooms. The only source was public media, which provided one-sided official information, and it was more part of campaign rather than objective information about the trials. Based on many human rights violations, we have also international reaction. Amnesty International organization provided a very good statement delegitimizing the trials, calling them sham trials without any guarantees offered to the defendants. And we have also political reaction coming from European Union, from France. They all call on immediate unconditional release of Armenian prisoners, including political leaders, and they don't recognize the outcome of this sham trial because due process was not respected.
Thank you, Siranush, once again for bringing clarity to these complex issues. We will now be opening the floor for questions from the audience. So I would like to first ask you to think of a question for Siranush. But before I do, we have received a question from our former colleague, a former teacher here, Paul Murray, who is watching this session online. And his question, I believe, resonates with everyone here. Paul is asking, what is one single most important thing that we can do to promote Ruben's release?
So I think Authoritarian regimes or politically sensitized governments, they rely on silence. They want human rights violations to be forgotten, and they rewrite history to neglect all the crimes that were committed under their guidance, under their knowledge, and so on. And to work strategically, we should keep the issues vital and attract international attention to exert more political and moral pressure on governments who disregard international order. Right now, it is very difficult to talk about morality because power, geopolitical factors, trade, they prevail over human rights and they shrink the space for law. And we, the lawyers, are very skeptical about the law. What space is left for legal resolution, for human rights considerations. But with this crisis, we should rely on political pressure, moral pressure to have changes in the conduct of state actors. So raising the matter in any format is important, and we can resort to public diplomacy as well. To brief about the issue to international actors, diplomatic representative, societies to create an environment for proper action for their government. So every tool which is important from public diplomacy perspective should be taken. And of course, we can provide psychological support to the families, stand by them, and show by our own actions that they are not alone in the path of struggle. And Ruben's case is not about individual responsibility. This is a collective punishment of Armenian identity, but through the face of Ruben Vardanyan, who was a successful, prominent Armenian devoted to his Armenian roots and to the values. So this is a collective punishment against us, and we should take any possible action to struggle for the justice and for the release.
Thank you so much. Dear all, it is now your chance to ask a question. If you do ask a question, please focus on peace, understanding, and human dignity, and briefly introduce yourself. Okay. Can we please pass the microphone to Zuzana?
Yes, so I'm Zuzana, and I wanted to ask you, as an international lawyer, how you could navigate the case of Ruben Vardanyan facing so much repression from Azerbaijani government and like with Azerbaijani government trying to make like any action against the persecution basically impossible. Like what you as international lawyer were able to do?
Thank you for the question. Very important one. Release of prisoners, especially political prisoners, has a political dimension, and the most successful, short, efficient path to the release is political and diplomatic. But we understand that Armenia does not have the same bargaining power in negotiations with Azerbaijan, and also we know that prisoners are also hostages, and demands are presented for the exchange of hostages, and without this political trading, it's very, very difficult to achieve their release through political diplomatic means only. But luckily, Azerbaijan is a part of a human rights system. They ratified the European Convention on Human Rights, and they recognize the jurisdiction of the court to decide whether violations occurred at domestic level, and European Convention has the specific right to a fair trial. Whenever conviction is achieved domestically through due process violations, it can be acknowledged by the court. The court can delegitimize the conviction, and the court can delegitimize the grounds of continuing imprisonment. And the consequence of court decision is the release of a person who is kept without sound legal grounds and conviction. So we see our role to take a very strategic case before European Court of Human Rights in a consultation with the family, because our powers should come from the family, but based on power of attorney, and then we can represent them in this international proceeding. So we strongly advise victims, Armenian victims, political leaders, and families to take individual actions, not to wait to state action, which is always dependent on political dynamic, and independently protect their best interests through European Court of Human Rights. We have also quite well-developed jurisprudence. Many Azerbaijani opponents were able to restore their violated rights and be released from unlawful detention with the help of European Court of Human Rights. Then the judgments of the European Court of Human Rights are subject to international supervision. So there is a political organ, Committee of Ministers, which supervises, and this could become another arena of generating more political pressure to achieve the release. So our recommendation is to continue diplomatic political steps for their release and combine it with legal action, opening a space for more the binding legal decisions and more political pressure.
Hello, I'm Kuka from Georgia. Thank you for the discussion. It was really interesting. I just want to ask about controversies about this case because I think that because it is a peace talks, the understanding other side is also important. And I'm interested, I just heard about this, I'm not sure, I may be wrong, but that Ruben Vardanyan was sanctioned by Ukraine a few years ago for undermining states' sovereignty. I don't remember the specific case, but I think it was something related to military transportation. I'm not sure. And also he was in a working list of US sanctions. I just want to hear your opinion about this and in general, what do you think about that?
Yes, so this is again very political question because it relates to Ukraine-Russian war, And as you know, Ruben Vardanyan held also Russian citizenship, but he refused from Russian citizenship once he devoted his further life and activities for the struggle to self-determination of Artsakh. And by the way, it had also negative impact because Russian side does not anymore have specific obligations towards Ruben Vardanyan as his citizen. But the sanctions were imposed in the context of Ukraine-Russia war and Ruben as a Russian citizen. But importantly, this was not a part of criminal charges brought in Azerbaijan. So the charges Ruben faces in Azerbaijan is not linked anyhow to the actions which were sanctionable in the context of Ukraine-Russia war.
Thank you. Was there another question there at the front? Yeah.
Thank you. I'm RP Petrosyan, a UWCD Legion student. First of all, I want to thank you for being here, for presenting all these things, for this discussion, and talking about humanitarian issues. That is so important because as long as we have humanitarian issues between those nations, it's hard to achieve long-lasting peace in the region. I have two questions. My first question is about the Russian citizenship that Ruben had. Is there any support from the Russian government to these processes that is ongoing? Not only political, but I don't know, the other, any support, any kind of support that Russia gives to you. And the other question is about the other peasants in the Azerbaijan. In 2025, mutual meetings were being in the Azerbaijan and in Armenia, meetings of civil society representatives of Peace Bridge Initiative. After that, 4 Armenian peasants in 2026 returned to Armenia. As you already say that Ruben Vardanyan and other politicians, other state representatives' questions are more politicized. What about those other peasants who are not politicians? Their question is not politicized. What do you think about returning them back by those talkings, discussion, negotiations, and not trying to politicize them?
Thank you. So the issue about Russian support, no specific support from Russian government was received. Of course, Russia follows closely the events and also the trials, and they made a general announcement similar to other states, criticizing the trials are as political processes. However, I think this general type of support announcement was made, but no other particular support considering the link of Ruben Vardanyan and Russia. About the release of other Armenians. So right now we have 19 Armenians who are officially acknowledged as being kept in closed institutions of Azerbaijan. And we are adding also one more Armenian who remain in Stepanakert after displacement in 2023. During Aliyev's visit, he's alleged to have conducted some sabotage or other activities, and he also faced trials. And right now he's convicted, but his case has peculiarity, so we count separately the case of 19, but we also discuss the case of Karen Avanasyan to show that we have 20 Armenians alive who should be returned to Armenia through all possible means. But before that, indeed, at the beginning of 2026, 4 Armenians were released. They also faced very serious charges, including genocide. For example, Vagiv Khachaturian was convicted for genocide. We had also Vigen Eukchan, with dual citizenship, also from Lebanon, and he was convicted for being mercenary, an action which is totally prohibited under international law. Armenia and Azerbaijan publicly introduced this release of 4 as a humanitarian gesture. But professionally, we don't share this opinion because on the same day, Armenia released 2 mercenaries, Syrian mercenaries, who were engaged in Artsakh war with the help of Turkey. They committed many international crimes. They were convicted, and for 5 years, they were under imprisonment. So we consider this as an exchange, as a trade, and this is an additional evidence which shows that Armenian prisoners are not just prisoners, they are hostages, and each time their release is conditioned on meeting some unlawful demand. And the unlawful demands in the last case was the release of mercenaries. But Armenia has an international undertaking to fight against mercenaries when they are used to suppress the right to self-determination. But this was an imposed term, and without meeting this term, it was very hard to have at least the release of 4 Armenians. But we see more potential in the framework of peace talks. Release of Armenian prisoners is the key peace building, trust building measure. And without trust, you cannot have sustainable peace. So in our opinion, peace can be achieved through resolution of humanitarian issues. And with unresolved humanitarian issues, we cannot trust in any peace promise. This logic is well perceived by internationals, and even during his visit, Vance highlighted the importance of trust-building measures, specifically naming the release of Armenian prisoners.
Thank you. Thank you. We are getting out of time, but we'll take one more question. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anelia. Thank you so much for your speech. It was very interesting. And I think a reoccurring message that we all got from it was that Ruben Vardanyan's case involves a lot of violations of fundamental human rights. And hopefully in the near future, something significant will be done about it. However, my question is, in the future, how are we supposed to deal with these issues? How can we ensure or guarantee or at least minimize such situations happening? Or is it something that Armenia or other countries have to expect to deal with? And if so, how?
For non-repetition, it's important to have accountability mechanism and impunity. So bringing justice is a way to eliminate future repetition of human rights violations. But unfortunately, we have this unprecedented situation for Armenia when this pre-signed peace treaty denies justice and accountability for peace. So this is the adverse formula which was used internationally. So the main formula is peace can be achieved and sustainable through justice and punishing the perpetrators. And transitional justice concept is introduced to help in transition to peace. Even for Ukraine war, we can see that it's a mandatory requirement for any peace talks. But unfortunately, the agreement which was signed between Armenia and Azerbaijan requires withdrawal of all interstate cases which were designed to bring peace to Armenian, to bring justice to Armenian victims. So the cost of this peace for this particular context and for this particular conflict is elimination of justice, impunity for peace. We cannot rely on state actions anymore. Once the treaty enters into force, there is a very rigid timeline, 1 month period for withdrawal of all interstate cases. But as human rights activists, justice is very important for us. And we rely on individual actions to have individual legal complaints to international courts, different quasi-judicial bodies, to restore violated rights through international mechanisms. But the burden right now should rely on the shoulders of victims and their families, because state decided to sign this treaty on a condition that all interstate cases for justice should be dropped off.
Thank you all very much for your questions, and let's please once again thank Siranush for her answers.
Thank you.
It is now time to wrap up our event, and I would like to invite Monica Agarwal, our global politics teacher, to say the closing remarks.
Yaro. Thank you. Thank you, Siranush. Thank you, Veronica, for your time, for courage, and even for the care what you have shown to share these insightful moments with us. Thank you, everyone, for listening, for coming here. As I close, I want to share some takeaways with you. I don't want to repeat what the points were shared, but I want to take away some thoughts which I was just reflecting and thinking. First, today reminded us that behind every public story or public issue, there is a human being, a person, a family, a community. So the way we speak matters. Even when feelings are strong, dignity must stay at the center. And this was the word which was resonated multiple times about dignity. Second, we saw how important it is to use careful language. We are living in a bubble. Most of the time we are using our language. It can either break or build us. To separate what we know, what we do not know, and what is still debated, and to remember that law and politics can overlap. And that is exactly why we need patience, precision, and responsibility in our words. We are surrounded by that. Most of the time, we are reflecting on it. How we are gathering the information, how much we are responsible to infer those wordings. Finally, today is the inaugural session of our UWC Diligent Peace Talk series, what Adam talked about. So we are not only talking about peace, we are also practicing how to talk when the topic is difficult, as we noticed it here, right? I'm also reminded of when I was just listening, I thought of Martin Luther King, that peace is not absence of tension. This is what we say. We conclude that peace means there is no tension. But the peace is something about the presence of justice, right? Do we have justice? Was the peace availed? Probably yes. But was the justice given? Probably not. So, as we begin this Peace Talk series, let us commit to building a space where justice and understanding guide us. Let's be just mindful around us. Let us choose our words with care and act with responsibility. And let us protect dignity, even when we disagree. As we move on, I want you to leave with one question what you can carry. What did I do today? In my words, in my actions, or my choices to add peace to my society? What did I do today? When I'm closing up my day, did I add anything to my society? Did I add anything to my community? Thank you again for being here. Over to Adam. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. I would like to thank everybody for being here today, for participating in this inaugural session of UWC Diligent Peace Talks. Thank you for gathering here in person at the school, and thank you everybody that watched us online as well. I would like to thank Monica and Yara for helping us understand the case of Ruben and his commitment to his values. A big thank you, of course, goes to Veronica, who is an immense source of inspiration for us with her strength. And I would also like to thank our special guest today, Siranush Sahakyan, for being here with us and helping us understand the legal aspect of the case. We deeply admire the work that you do in the field of humanitarian law. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.